Hi everyone, welcome to my breakout section. Pull out a chair, grab a cup of coffee or tea, and let's have a really conversation. Today I want to talk about human trafficking. So as you know, human trafficking happens in everywhere around the world, and it happens here in America. So we can ask ourselves, what is human trafficking? Human trafficking is a crime. It's when someone is being taken to do something that is against their own will. So we have many different types of trafficking. We speak about sexual trafficking, but we also have a labor trafficking. Many people come from different countries to America with the desire to work and do different things and find themselves in America to work for minimal, no money, and working for many hours. Sex trafficking is one of the biggest industrial revenue in America. United States make $32 billion in human trafficking, and around the world it's over $150 billion. Human trafficking is becoming one of the biggest venue in the world because the way it works, it used to be drugs, but now human trafficking. Why? Because human trafficking, when people get taken to used as sex trafficking, you can use them many times. But with drugs, it's so much the body can take before it collapses and people die. So the average age for girls to be taken is from the age of 12 to 14. And 71% are females and 29% are boys. So boys do get trafficking too. So ladies, we love to post pictures on Facebook and Instagram and all social medias about our children. I am a grandma for my grandchildren, and I tell people, please don't post the pictures of your babies or your kids with bathing suits or naked pictures on Facebook, because it's a lot of people who are watching these things and these predators are watching these pictures to try to follow and see how they get to our children. So ladies, just be careful with that. So I want to speak a little bit about in USA, the areas in USA, the biggest states of human trafficking is California, Texas, and New York. Yes, California, Texas, and New York. In Pennsylvania, where I am, it ranks number 11 in human trafficking. So many news are being say a lot of what's happening around the world and talk about human trafficking in America. So ladies, I just want to tell you that keep looking, be careful with your children. I had the opportunity to go to high schools and elementary schools and speak about human trafficking, the awareness. Many students are so much into social media, and a lot of our children, they so desire and want to be accepted for different things, and many of predators are behind and send a friend request to our children. So please be careful what the children do, what do they look in the internet, because a lot of those children are being taken because these predators are behind the scene, send a request, and especially girls, we want to like it, we want to be accepted, and a lot of times we accept friend requests of people that we don't even know. So please, just keep eye on your children. I also want to talk a little bit about my testimony, why I'm so passionate about human trafficking. I actually born in Mine Bay, India, and I grew up in Costa Rica. When I was 5 years old, my mother, we moved from India to Costa Rica, and I found out that my life was going to change. Shortly after I moved to Costa Rica from India, my mother brought this man to the house, and he started sexually abusing me shortly right after. And it went on for many years. When I was 9 years old, I experienced my first time to be trafficking. My mother sold me with this lady. She brought me to the city and left me in a broth for when I was 9, and she brought me to the brothel. and left me in there. We having a customer, a shoemaker. And that time I was only 9 years old. I didn't understand exactly what was happening, and I remember crying and telling my mom, why are you leaving me? I didn't understand that. And sitting in that room and be alone, I thought my mother was gonna go and bring me a doll, but I find out that I was trafficking for first time. I was, for the grace of God, I was able to escape that home because the lady who ran the brothel, she left the door open, and I went outside, and I was able to get to the telephone, and somebody came and rescued me and took me back home. When I got back home, my mother was very upset, and she didn't understand how can it possible you be back home. Of course, sometimes we're going through things in life and we don't understand what is happening, and of course I didn't understand, but that was my home. That was the only place I did have. So shortly after, when I was 12 years old, my mother sent me to get something from the store, and this is all happened in Costa Rica. And I heard somebody, I heard tambourines, I heard a church going in the home, and I went to the house, and I remember the pastor was preaching. I didn't understand exactly what was happening, but one thing I realized it was so much love showing to me, and I have not felt that for many years, because not just my mom saw me when I was 9, she continued using me, and through the friends that she has, she would bring home friends, and these men, they used to pay her for sex favors that I was doing to these men. And I was able that day, when I heard that church service, I went inside, and this man, the pastor says, anybody want to receive Christ as your Lord and Savior? And I remember I was the first one to raise my hand, because I want that. I want that love. I want the happiness. And I came to Christ that day. And I went home, but the abuse continued. It would not stop. Sometimes when we come to Christ, we think that our life is going to change, but it's not that. Life is not going to change. The life is going to continue. And the sex abuse, the mental abuse, the physical abuse continue in my home. My two parents, they were both alcoholics, and my mother also was a witchcraft. She used to do a lot of things. So when I was almost 13 years old, my mother said to me, Sioni, I want for you to get ready. We're going to the city. I want for you to be a baby city. And oh my God, I was happy. I could not believe how happy I was, because I thought I really gonna do something special with my mother. I was so desperate to want that love from my mother. I just want for my mother to love me and to be accepted for her. And she took me to the city. As we walked to this place, I wasn't sure exactly what was happening, but she brought me to this room, and I remember it was 2 other girls in there, and it was a room with different little rooms with a bed. As I'm sitting in the bed, I see my mom literally start leaving the place, and I screaming, Mom, where are you going? Where are you going? I want to come with you. And she left, and I realized that I was taken for trafficking for my second time. At that time, I was not so lucky, I say that, because I was taken for 3 years. I was trafficking 6-10 tons a day. On the weekends, it was a little bit more customers. And it was 2 girls in there, and they were saying, they were using a lot of drugs. I didn't want to use drugs, not because I was better than them. It was because I knew that what I had experienced that time when I came to the Lord, it was a different experience. It was something beautiful. And when they would offer me drugs, I used to tell them, I don't want to use drugs. I know God is going to take me out of this place one day. And they were looking at me like, what's wrong with this girl? How can God's gonna take you out this place? Look at what we are. Look at what we're doing. But I knew it. I knew God was gonna take me out of this place. So one day, somebody cooked something, and it was a soup, and the house got in fire. So everybody was going crazy, everybody's running around, and I find that opportunity for me to be able to escape that home. And sure I did. I jumped out a 3-story building. And I remember when I laid in the ground, the only thing I want to do is run, run, run. And I run, I got in the bus, and here I have no money. And the lady is asking me, little girl, where are you going? I guess the only thing I know how to say is I'm going back home. I remember she paying for my ticket to back home. When I got to my mother's house, she was very upset. She said to me, what are you doing in here? And I said, Mom, I want to be back home. And so she let me stay home. And again, you know, she started bringing men to the house and continue the trafficking, continue the sex, continue the abuse, continue the mental abuse. When I was 16 years old, she introduced me a man who was going to be purchasing me for the 3rd time. And she sure did. He purchased me for some money and for a cow. And she exchanged me for a cow. And by that time, I was 16. I was already broken. I feel like my life, it was, that was what I was meant to be, like somebody who was just being used. When this man purchased me, I stayed in Costa Rica for another 4 years because he was an American. And in that time, in those 4 years, of course, you know, I became I became a prostitute. I prostitute myself. I worked for my mother, continue bring men to the house. And so when he came to visit me, I was almost 18 years old. I got pregnant for my daughter, and I want to keep my daughter. My mother wanted me to cause an abortion, but I didn't want to do that. So, but before that, just want to let you know that I had 3 abortions. My mother has forced 3 abortions during the time before I was 16. Tried to commit suicide multiple times, and I was never successful because, see, I didn't understand what God has the plan for my life. So I stay in Costa Rica, I have a child, and continue working for my mother, continue making money, you know, and shortly after, 2 years later, I got pregnant again, and this time I stay my ground since I say I'm going to keep my son. I'm going to take my baby, and I have it, and then I was able to have my son. I came to United States in 1991 with the man who purchased me, who is the father of my children. Shortly after I came to America, my son was 6 months old, and he left me. Here I am, find myself in America, no means, no money, no job, no English, of course. And so what I did what I knew how to do. I start prostituting myself again to be able to bring food for my children. When my ex-husband left me, I continue let him to come inside in the house, back and forth, back and forth. He was such an abuser man. He used to hit me. He used to verbally, physical abuse me. But see, that's all I knew. So to me, it was a normal thing. And sometimes we can believe that that's a normal thing when we have people who are abusing us, who mistreat us, because that's all we know. But so when he left me, I chose to, accept him back and forth. But one day I went to a church. Somebody invited me to go to church, and that day my life started changing, because I start getting back to what I knew, which is that feeling about being loved again. What I experienced when I was younger, when I went to the first time to that church. And one day they asked me if I need prayer, and of course, you know what we do, we don't want to tell people the truth. So I say, no, I don't need to pray. But eventually this woman starts seeing bruises in all my body, and she say, is something wrong with you? And I didn't want to tell the truth, but one day I say, my husband, who is really left me, but I let him to come to the house to see the kids. He continued beating me, and she said, we can't allow that. So that day I decided to just break the chains and not allow him to abuse me anymore. I stayed in America, and one day in 2003, I got a phone call. It was my brother who actually, I didn't speak about my brother, but my brother also sexual abused me at a very young age. Um, he calls me. He says, Sioni, I want to let you know that my mother is dying, and I haven't heard his voice for over many years. And I remember I didn't hear anything in the kitchen but his voice. And I say, I'm gonna have to go see my mother. So I chose to go visit my mother when she was in the hospital. She was she was almost dying. She was in a life support. My mother has have her 4 heart attacks in less than 48 hours. So when I got to Costa Rica, everybody was pretty much waiting for me to say the goodbye to my mother and be able to unplug her from the machines. I remember woke up to the hospital. She's laid in the bed, and I remember grab her the hands and told her, Mom, I love you. I forgive you. See, I had chose to forgive my mother, not because, you know, it was sounds good. I know it was the right thing to do, and I wanted God be able to work in my life. And I remember grab her hands and told Mom, I love you. I promise you that I will be part of your life. I forgive you. I forgive you for everything you did to me. I forgive you for you soling me. I forgive you for all the horrible things that you did in my life. But I want you. I want you alive. And I remember seeing my mother jumping out of the bed, and I remember the doctor right away run and say, bring the nurse, this lady's coming back. And I didn't understand what was happening, but I knew God was doing something in there. And the more I spoke to her, the more I say to her, I forgive her, the more I feel like something was unfolding. And I didn't understand everything what was happening, but it was God working in that moment. And I was able to stay in that hospital for 1 month. I rented a hotel next to the hospital, and every day I used to go see my mom. So just to let you know that my mother was at 8 days later, she was able to start talking. The life support was disconnected. She was able to start breathing her own. And I chose to be there for my mother every day. And I remember one day she looked at my eyes and she said, Sioni, how can you forgive me? And I looked at her eyes and I said, Mom, I forgive you because God forgives me. God forgive me for all the things that I did and who I am not to forgive you. So it was a beautiful thing. So a month later, I took my mother to home, and I would be able to, talk to her, and I chose to forgive my mother. In 2014, my mother passed away. I was able to go to her funeral, and during that time, being the funeral, I find four of the men who have sexual abused me during that time when I was younger. I saw them. And it was a hard thing for me to look at their eyes, but I knew that I need to forgive them. I need to do that because when we don't forgive, God cannot work in our lives. And I often talk about and speak about Jeremiah 29:11. See, when I was taken as a trafficking, I didn't know what the plans that God has in my life. And he said, I know the plans I have in your life. It's not to destruct you. And that's exactly what God did in my life. See, my life is like Esther. The book of Esther, God is not mentioned once in the book, but his fingerprints, they were all over the book. And that's how my life was. My life, his fingerprints, it was all in my life. And I just want to let you know and encourage you that, it doesn't matter what you're going through in life, knowing that God is by your side. Let him to be the charge in your life. Sometimes we can look back at the past, but we need to close the past and we need to open the doors of the present, because great things are coming for us. God has a purpose for everybody in life. I often go to the prison ministry. I go to the church, to the prison on Sundays, and I told the women, it doesn't matter how you are. It doesn't matter how you think you are. Because see, the devil told us one thing, but God says something else. See, God said we are the daughters of the King, and he got great plans in your life. So I know sometimes forgive is not an easy thing to do, but we need to forgive. That way God can forgive us. And I say, you know, it's two different things, you know. We can allow forgive us. How we do that? You know, sometimes we ask ourselves, why would I want to forgive that person? And we need to show us that. You know why? Sometimes when we don't forgive someone, that you know that you chain that person around your soul, and everywhere you go, you carry with that person. And that person might have moved out of the country and even died sometimes. That person maybe is dead. And here you are holding this and say, you know, I'm not going to forgive that person because what they did to me. But in the meantime, it's hurting yourself because that person is not there. And that person maybe never even going to come and say, you know what, I forgive you. So you have the choice to forgive that person. And that's exactly what I did. I chose to forgive my mother. I chose to forgive my father. Did you know my father was such an abuser man that many times he used to hang me in the ceiling of the house from my hair like a piñata. One day he pulled all my fingernails off my fingers, and that's the kind of abuse that I encountered, leaving me in the room for a week without food, without eating anything, chained by the tables. But I had the choice to forgive. You know why? Because I want for God to use me, and I just want to let you know that, you know, I know that we all have gone through things in life, and we all have a story to tell, you know. But it doesn't matter what story we tell. Let God write your story. And I just want to let you know that God wrote my story. And here I am, be able to tell people what God's doing in my life. And, you know, fight with the devil. Get in the ring with the devil. Fight with him. Let him know that, you know what? He tried to destroy you. Yeah, he had taken so many things from you. Many of us have taken our virginity. Many of us have been taking our way we feel. Sometimes we don't even want to feel good. We don't feel good about what things that we had done in the past. But you know what? Take back what was taken from you. Tell the devil, you know, I know, devil, you tried to destroy me. But you know what? God has something better for you. God has something better for me. So I just want to let you know that God loves you. And it doesn't matter how we come to him. You know, look at what he done in the Bible. I want to read from the book of Jeremiah, chapter 29:11. This is my favorite verse in the Bible. We all have our favorites, but this is mine. And when I read this, it reminds me, just like the Israelites when they were captured in Babylon, God showed up with this verse. And that's exactly what he did to me when I was taken for second time as trafficking in that place in a brothel. So it say, I alone know the plans I have for you. Plans to bring you prosperity and not to disaster. Plans to bring about the future you hope for. See, ladies, God has a plan for everyone in life. And yes, we all can say yes. I hear that so many times. But let me tell you something. When I was captivated in that place, I never thought with the plans that God has for my life. But remember, God has a plans for everyone. It doesn't matter how we look things in life. It doesn't matter the dark tunnel in our life. We know that God is there in the other side, ready to grab our hands and pull us. So remember, ladies, shut the doors in the past. Open the doors of the present and the future. And remember that God will never leave you or forsake you. Bye-bye, ladies.